Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk. Well, still lots of rejoicing over the remarkable victory by the West Indies over the weekend. But today our focus is on the regional Super 50. You're going to hear from Wendell Coppin. Wayne and Ayana had a chat with him before the Barbados team left for Antigua. And you're also going to get a bit of reflection by us on the opening matches of the 2021 edition of the regional Super 50. So when we come back, it's going to be the regional Super 50.
Whatever the challenge that you face, you'll need effective insurance solutions. Look no further than IGS Insurance Brokers. We specialize in commercial, auto insurance, life, individual and group health, as well as pension packages.
At IGS Insurance Brokers, honesty and integrity are paramount. We are your general insurance brokers for life.
We deliver packages tailored specifically for you. Give us a call at 429-8810 or visit our offices for a consultation with our friendly, well-trained staff.
Our aim at IGS is to offer the best possible service to our clients and at the same time to be a credit to the insurance industry in Barbados.
You may be locked down, but we've not locked you out. Call us at 242-7642. IGS Insurance Brokers. You can stay safe with us.
Well, guys, not the type of start that Barbados would have wanted for sure in the original Super 50. High hopes with a pretty strong team. Yes, the Trinidad side is strong as well. And in fact, all the teams are, to my mind, well represented. What really happened, that total collapse yesterday, at a time when it looked as though Barbados would go on to win the match with some degree of ease?
Well, not the ideal start for Coach Dexter Toppin, new coach Dexter Toppin, but I got the feeling that the Barbados team came over to me as a team not quite ready for the big dance. What I saw yesterday was something of a dress rehearsal, and suggested to me that maybe the tournament came a game too early for Barbados. You know, they look like a team that could use a warm up. Let's put it that way. Having said that, though, by restricting a powerful Guyana batting side to just 235, not even batting the 50 overs, I thought that was a commendable performance on the field by the Barbadians, who would have lost the toss, Guyana winning the toss and batting. But then, when it came to our turn to bat, I mean, before I get to that, like I said, one would have thought that 235 playing at Coolidge on a pitch that looked fairly placid, the Barbados lineup should make easy work of that. At least they should be able to make that 235 in 50 overs batting. As it turned out, the batting flopped, to use your word, Philip, and now we find ourselves having to play catcher.
Ayana?
In my assessment, from watching from this distance, the performance just seemed like it lacked intensity. As we said, maybe it's because it's the first game out, and they're now getting their game plans together, just getting the work in your legs. So I just thought that it lacked intensity. They did well to restrict Guyana to that score, but when they started the batting innings, I don't know, the guys, like, they just started in a shell and remained in a shell, and they had to play catch up, and in the end the rain didn't help. And one of the things I think teams can't do in this tournament, I know that Barbados and Trinidad on paper are very strong, but I don't think that any team in this tournament is to be underestimated.
Well, you said that the rain didn't make things easier, but a friend of mine messaged me during one of those rain breaks and said that he hoped for the washout because that would save Barbados some embarrassment. I don't know if it saved an embarrassment, but it certainly shortened the misery because it really was a miserable batting performance. And I think what was noticeable to me too, I mean, you always expect your senior players to lead, and I didn't see that energy, that focus coming from them, especially neither in the field, and I'm talking about the bowling of Jason Holder, which I thought really should have been more impactful at this level.
If I might add though, the few positives, the fielding to break the opening partnership was really good. Shamar Holder took a great catch. Zachary McCaskey and Ashley Nurse as well. That was really needed. I said, fielding catches win matches. And for some reason after that, the level just seemed to drop. I guess you had about 3 or 4 wickets. You thought that, okay, we're going to wrap this up very soon. And in the end, the guys, they had their plan. And I guess their plan was to attack. And they continued to do that and eventually got to that score of 200.
Talking about wrapping it up though, I really was a bit puzzled when with some 8 wickets down, one of the fast bowlers bowling and and there was no slip. The ball went straight through slip. They've gone down to the boundary for 4. I couldn't really figure that out because if you got 8 wickets down and at that stage more than 10 overs remaining, I would think you'll be doing everything possible to wrap the innings up. And by contrast, you recall that when the Barbados side was struggling, the Guyana captain kept the pressure on, and at one point you would have thought it was a test match too.
And they employed a short leg. At a point they had 2 slips. So the I don't know, the entire approach from the sides were a bit contrasting in my opinion.
Yeah, before Ryan jumps back in, I have often defended not only Jason Holder but West Indies captains. From people who would want to compare a test captain with a regional captain. And I do believe, though, that there is an argument that if a regional captain is highly successful, it may not be a bad idea in this type of climate to give him a shot at the West Indies level. But that apart, you've got to remember that a regional captain, pretty much regional teams, they're closer together in terms of the strength than West Indies to the other test playing countries. And therefore, I defended sometimes our seemingly negative approach on that basis. But now we're talking about regional cricket where the levels are very similar. As you said yourself earlier, Ayana, you can't underestimate anybody. And it was very clear the negativity coming from, the lack of aggression coming from Barbados was very clear in comparison to the Ghana side. Right?
Well, I am more concerned with that lack of aggression of which you speak when it came to the batting. When we came to our turn to bat, because yes, it is okay to try not to be reckless, to be cautious in an approach, but in one-day cricket, 50-over cricket, with the advantage given by the power play at the top of the innings, I thought that we at no point sought to take advantage of the restrictions in those first 50 overs. And that is a crucial requirement in 50 overs cricket. I think where we have the 2 youngsters, 2 men still battling for their play, I think that they're very conscious of that, not wanting to fail that. And they also showed up the great loss to Barbados of the Shea Hope at the top of that order. I mean, he would have been the one who would have been responsible for giving the innings that impetus. So I'm not going to be too harsh on the team altogether. If I'm going to be harsh on any segment of the team, it would be the experienced middle order who really failed to take leadership. And I'm talking about Brooks at number 3, Carter at number 4, Chase at number 5, Holder at number 6. That was where my major disappointment came as far as the Barbados performance was concerned.
But yeah, so when I'm with you completely, if that didn't come across, then that's my bad for not expressing it properly. But that is my main concern as well. I did mention the lack of aggression in the field from the point of view that really and truly, I think that the Ghana side was allowed to score too many runs. And that's not to take away anything from Mario Shepard and company, because you do what you've got to do. And if in trying to do what you're attempting, the opposition is accommodating you, that's not your fault. The point is you've got to know what you want to do. And Romario Shepard was excellent. So too, of course, Hetmar earlier, but I'm talking about even after the dismissal of Hetmar, there was a chance that the Barbados side could have wrapped up things and have a much easier total to chase. As you said, you've got two openers who are obviously and quite rightly would want to be concerned about maintaining their places. And with all that in mind, you don't want to be chasing more runs in these early matches, especially, than you have to. So I'm with you completely on that. But at the same time, I would expect to see, both in terms of leadership and in terms of performance, that when the international players come down, they're not going to score runs all the time. I'm not naive. But I would expect to see a fairly confident approach because of that superiority they have to inexperience. Well,
having gotten those gremlins out of the way, I mean, having that run out and dusted off, I expect a much more complete performance from the Barbados team in the rest of the matches. This format being played this year does not allow a lot of room to maneuver, so one has really got to be on one's toes throughout the tournament, and I don't think Barbados can afford another setback.
Well, yes, and the teams they've got to really strike early and maintain that form. But I don't think we can complete our discussion without looking at the first match as well, and especially the performance of one Kevin Stout.
I'm glad that you've mentioned Kevin Stout, because I expect really good performances from Kevin Stout. I mean, he has a very big heart, and I know he's a guy who always has like a statement to make. And this Windward Islands Volcanoes team, again, I reinforce that teams in this tournament should not be underestimated. I think that is going to be a very competitive tournament. Both teams did not bat the 50 overs. That was a bit of a concern. Bit of reckless batting towards the end. I thought that Leeward Islands Hurricanes were very comfortable in the chase, with a century from Nitish Kumar out of Canada, I think it is. He might have represented ICC Americas in the tournament before. And he's added some impetus to their batting that I think is very valuable to them, knowing that they miss Devon Thomas, who will probably be with the team later on in the tournament, as well as Jamar Hamilton and Raheem Cornwall, who are with the test team in Bangladesh. So a key contest, but Windward Island Volcanoes getting the victory on that occasion.
Well, Kevin Stout, one of the talents I would say that in the region we were allowed to go to this at a time when West Indies cricket really could not have afforded not to maximize all of its talent. And here's hoping, though, even on the bigger picture, that sort of situation is curtailed, because we really can't, moving forward, allow such things like that to happen again, where you've got players performing consistently year in, year out, and for one reason or the other, often it's suspected it's not even a cricket reason. For one reason or the other, they're not included. Rain?
Well, for one thing for sure, there's still life in Kevin Stout. And just a few 24 hours, but a bit more than 24 hours. Well, sometime back, we saw a man at 43, a man called Tom Brady. Also would have been some inspiration for the likes of a Kevin Stout. So I am still confident that Kevin still has a place, still has the opportunity. I'm happy that he has the opportunity to the Windward Volcanoes. And when I saw Kevin performing, there for the Windwards. My thoughts drifted. I can't wait until Barbados meet the Windwards. Let's see what Kevin has in store for us all.
You know, and just before we close off that topic, and this is not just the Kevin Stout issue. No, I think it's how we look at players in the region, how we manage players and manage our resources. And there's this feeling that, you know, let's just look for the next young guy. Calmir is what, 27, 28 years old, Ayana? And Bonner already past 30. And I don't have to remind you what they did just a few days ago. So we've got to focus more. I think this whole thing about the next young guy. Yes, you've got to encourage the young players, but at the same time, you've got to recognize that everyone does not necessarily mature at the same time. Everyone is not necessarily ready at the same time, and we've got to stop looking at this age thing. And from the time a player gets 25 or 26 and he hasn't made it into the Barbados or West Indies side, that we start looking for the next 18-year-old. That's what we have on the 19 cricket. So that's just one point I wanted to make there.
It has also been observed, though, that West Indian cricketers tend to mature, particularly batsmen, tend to mature a bit later in the second half of the 20s, which is general for batsmen, cricketers generally. But these guys, because of the sometimes paucity of opportunities, you know, the guys take a little longer to really get to know their games and to understand what it takes to produce of their best on a consistent basis. So it's no surprise, I mean, that, as you said, you mentioned the two names you did, and there are lots more around here in the Caribbean who have shown that they have gotten better as they have gotten older.
And let's hope that the performances of Mears, but especially Bonner, is an inspiration to them. I say especially Bonner in terms of the more experienced players who may not have had a look in as yet, but who may very well feel that their time is gone. Maybe not. You could very well have an impactful season or two and find yourself in a position to help West Indies cricket. When we come back, we are going to hear from Wendell Coppin, who had a chat with Wayne and Ayana just before the team went off to Antigua.
Whatever the challenge that you face, you'll need effective insurance solutions. Look no further than IGS Insurance Brokers. We specialize in commercial, auto insurance, life, individual and group health, as well as pension packages.
At IGS Insurance Brokers, honesty and integrity are paramount. We are your general insurance brokers for life.
We deliver packages tailored specifically for you. Give us a call at 429-8810 or visit our offices for a consultation with our friendly, well-trained staff. You may be locked down, but we've not locked you out. Call us at 242-7642. IGS Insurance Brokers. You can stay safe with us.
The regional cricket West Indies Super 50 tournament is very much in the air, and the Barbados Pride side is quite ready and raring to go, heading out to Antigua, where this year's tournament will be held. And the man in charge of the management of that side will be none other than Wendell Coppin, who has been in that position now for some 5 years, and he'll be heading the Barbados Pride delegation to Antigua. We welcome Wendell to Anything Cricket Let's Talk, not for the first time, and of course, as a friend of the program, we say a very good afternoon, Wendell.
Good evening to you, Wayne, and good evening to the rest of the panel.
Well, yes, I am joined by Ayana Holder, my co-host for today's show. But as I mentioned at the top of the show, 5 years in the management of the Barbados Pride side. How has it changed? Let's say as to where we are today as against when you first took up the position in 2015, the 2015-2016 season?
I don't think, I don't think much has changed per se. I've learned quite a lot in those 5 years. I believe that the players have taught me a lot. I'm one for learning, learning in both spheres, where there is learning, sharing, me the teacher and me also the student. So from that perspective, I think that, you know, over the years I have grown. I suppose I've grown into the job. I have had lots and lots of assistance from the players. They're the ones who have really taught me how to manage the whole process. They're the ones who have helped me through these 5 years in terms of the requirements, in terms of the things that are necessary to keep a squad together. We've had very, very few incidents of ill discipline, either on or off the field. And where we've had issues, we have been able to deal with them internally, and in a manner which was befitting to all concerned. So from that aspect, Wayne, I think that I've grown into the job, but at the same time, I think that I have learned a hell of a lot in the time that I've been here.
You are responsible for the overall management of the entire team, which entails the players plus the coaching staff and the support staff. From that level, how important is it for you to be, well, not you or anyone in that position, to be able to manage the situation?
Having an understanding of the requirements of the players. My first responsibility is to the players, but at the same time, I also have an obligation to all the stakeholders, so the Cricket Association, and its wider audience in terms of supporters, in terms of its fans, sponsors, media houses, and so on. So there's a holistic position in terms of where the manager sits, in that his job is not just bat and ball. You know, I'll give you an example. Earlier today, I left home this morning, Wayne, at 7 o'clock, because I had to meet a supplier who was going to supply a number of items which this squad will have to take. I then got back home at 10 o'clock to meet a staff meeting. Then went into a CWI, had to get some information to CWI by 11 a.m., then to be contacted by CWI by 12 in terms of submission of meal plans and those types of things. Then to have another meeting at lunchtime at just after 12, meet with the CEO and HR by 1, report back to the team and the players by 1:30, and it goes on and on and on, and that's just one day.
Before I bring in Ayana, though, just to remind you that I ran into you at the office of the Barbados Cricket Association on Tuesday afternoon, and you were already engulfed, swamped with a situation which was evolving then, and that situation regarding the positive COVID tests of the 2 players who have had to be withdrawn from the side. And I know that itself was quite an undertaking. But generally, how have you been able to adapt and adjust to that, to the fact that we had these positive COVID tests and a lot of things have changed?
Yeah, a lot of things, and as you rightly said, Wayne, and it has been non-stop ever since. When I got the news, first thing that I had to do is to inform the PCA, so inform CEO and the president, uh, speak to CWI about our next step, inform our chairman of selectors, who then had to convene a meeting and get back to me about the players that were going to be needed to join the squad, inform those players that they will have to be tested, get clothing for them, get the necessary things for travel to prepare to travel. And as you quite rightly said, Tuesday was one hell of a day. But every day since Tuesday has been similar to Tuesday, and that has been a knock-on effect ever since, and it hasn't got any easier. But at the same time, like everything else, life has to go on, and again, you have to put measures in place that, and you have to be prepared to deal with each challenge as it comes, and meet the challenge head on.
Overall, can you give us an idea of what the bubble for Super 50 is going to be like regarding testing and the restrictions and stuff like that?
Well, the Barbados team, the players, the staff, support staff, and the players will be tested 8 times between Sunday the 24th of January, and we return to Barbados on the 28th of February. There'll be 8 COVID tests that we will go through in that process. The bio bubble is pretty much set up that for the first 24 hours it's in room. It's in room. Then for the next 3 days, and we arrive in Antigua. That becomes day 0. So that is day 0, and so for 24 hours, then we're in room, and then days 1 to 3 is a minimal contact, where we will test it again, and then on day 4, we're allowed to train. In a concise area within the bio bubble, and then practice after day 5. I think it's that day 5, and then just practice back to the hotel, back to the residence. We're not in the hotel. We'll be staying in the residence. So between the practice and back into the residence for the next 2 days, and then we play, I think, on day 7, but which we still have no contact with the public and public with us, and the only contact we'll have is with our bus drivers and the persons who provide the daily meals on a daily basis. So for the first 8 days, it's very restrictive. And then from day 9, we're allowed a shopping hour where we go to the market for an hour. Again, the market will be only accessible to us at that point in time, so there will be no Joe public in there. The rest of the public will not be allowed to come in at that time. So then 2 days where we are being monitored again, before the restrictions are slightly more relaxed, in that we can then mix in our own community where there is a little bit more activity within the bubble. But for the entire duration of the tournament, the bubble will be non-contact with the public, and the public non-contact with us. So it is going to be it's going to be one that is very secure. The onus is on all of us, not just the players, but on staff and officials, to ensure that this tournament is one that is run in conjunction with all of the regulations and stipulations of the Antigua government, and CWI. But looking ahead is to ensure that if international cricket is going to be played in the Caribbean this year, is that it is going to be played and that the players and staff and officials are all safe and free from COVID.
Have y'all had any special preparation as some of the guys, well, some of the West Indies guys would have had bubble experience, but some of the younger guys would not have had? Have y'all had any special preparation in order to manage the bubble situation?
No, there's no special preparation. I mean, all you can do is inform persons that are coming into the bubble, and we discuss that on a daily basis, the expectations and what to expect. The good thing, Ayana, what I can say to you is that, and this is, and I speak without contradiction, that all of our international players are freely give of information, equipment, and support to all of our cricketers in Barbados. And I can only speak from what I know as Wayne for the last 5 years. I don't know what a Barbados dressing room is like 6 years before, 10 years before. But what I can tell you is that this current dressing room is a very healthy one, and information sharing is readily available and support is there. So there's lots of discussion about the expectations, what life is like in a bubble, the things that you will not be allowed to do, things you'll be allowed to do, and those types of things. And the other thing, in the room assignments, because ultimately as manager, I have to assign rooms. There are times when persons will be in separate rooms, but in the same apartment. So you're in a 2-bedroom apartment. And the 2 persons living in that 2-bedroom apartment with separate quarters and so on. And what I've done is ensure that an international player is rooming with one of the junior players, and it's not a case, with the exception of one, and Shamar Holder and Keon Harding, and the reason why I've kept them together as a pairing. Over the last couple of years, I've always tried to ensure that persons, when they room together, it made sense in terms of the ability to support. So I wouldn't necessarily put a young fast bowler with Roston Chase, but I might put a young batsman with Roston Chase. But out of accident, Shamar Holder and Keon Harding became roommates in 2019, 2020. And what I have found is that they have pushed each other. They've pushed each other on the field. They have supported each other off the field. And we talk about, over the years, people talk about bowlers and being in tandem on the field and in partnerships and so on. And as a result of that, I've kept them together because what I found that the 2 of them there's a chemistry between the 2 of them. And I think that they support each other well, but they also complement each other well. So that's the only area where you will find the 2 international, because the both of them have just been on the international series, where 2 international players in the same room, where I could have changed that and allowed one of the 2 of them to be with one of the younger players in the side. But because of that chemistry, I thought it has worked superbly well. And I wanted to keep that chemistry going, because ultimately what we want is that with the 2 of them being now the 2 new international young fast bowlers, is that the likelihood with Jason Holder and the captain, that pairing will be our strike force pairing. And I wanted for them to have that chemistry where they're constantly talking and pushing each other, sharing ideas and those types of things. So I've allowed them to stay. But in most other cases, I've got one of the international players with one of the junior players. So for instance, Zachary McCaskey is with Roston Chase. So from a batting perspective, that allows Zachary to speak to Roston and pick Roston's brain. but also for Roston to share his experiences from international bubbles and so on, but also international batting. So that is been part of what I have been looking at. But at the same time, some of the things that I have recognized that would help me, not only just me, but help the players certainly in settling in and being part of this really unusual circumstance.
There has been a lot of talk surrounding the mental health issues as regards the bubble situation, the biosecure bubble life and the likes. Have the franchise taken any special methods, or has any special consideration being given towards the preparedness of particularly the junior members of this team as far as bubble life is concerned?
It's unfortunate that one of the personnel that would have been ideal on a tour like this, and funding obviously is that is restricted by funding. But we have discussed the potential of as you said, mental fatigue, and then there are a number of persons that we have discussed that we can reach out to. There's a professional that I deal with on a regular basis, and I speak to her about a number of things. She has been in touch with a couple of our cricketers in the past. She's helped a couple of our cricketers in the past, and that is a resource that is available to us. And there are certain things that we've been advised, and as a staff, we're constantly discussing things as a staff, and there are things ultimately that we look for. But that is one of the areas that as a cricket association, and as a sport association, and something that needs greater attention, certainly in cricket West Indies and in sports in the Caribbean, because I don't think that enough attention is paid to the psychological aspect of a player's training regimes, playing regimes, their ability to cope with failure, their ability not to go overboard when success comes their way. So yes, in as much as that we haven't put significant emphasis on it, we have certainly discussed it, and there are certain avenues that we will ultimately tap into if the need arises.
I would want to suggest that maybe Cricket West Indies could have provided the support necessary by having either an individual or a team of persons on the spot in Antigua, whereby each and every team may be able to reach out to if the situation necessitated it. But as I said, we're learning as we go along, and that's a suggestion I'm going to give you next time you talk to the CWI people.
Indeed.
You mentioned, Wendell, discussing the need for mental skills and personnel. Would that mean that it would become a part of the franchise system?
No, it will become a resource. I think it doesn't necessarily have to become a part of the daily preparation, but a resource that is available. And I know our president, we over the years we've always talked about mental skills training, mental strength coaching, and that type of thing. And we had a Dr. Rudy Allen from the University of West Indies who came and discussed certain things with our players over the years and so on. And he's been either in the dressing room or at cricket or prior to a tournament. But because of COVID, and a lot of things are coming up because of COVID. We're seeing a lot more things because of COVID, and COVID has taught us a lot. There is perhaps a greater need for that resource to be more readily tapped into than we have previously looking into that resource. We have talked about it over the years, perhaps what we now need to do is we now need to look at ways of how we can incorporate that aspect of resources into our everyday training program, because it's not something that you would just wait until a tournament comes up, but it is dealing with a number of matters on a regular basis. How to cope with a number of issues, how to cope with success, how to cope with failure, how to cope with bubbles. I know some of my friends that would call me quite often, and I want to know, how to cope. And these are people who work daily lives, who school teachers, bus drivers, work in sugar factories, and doctors and nurses and so on, and they, because of restrictions and doing the same thing every single day, and being restricted in doing a specific thing daily. Sometimes some can cope, some can't cope, and that type of thing. So I'm always in discussion with person, but perhaps as a cricketing body across the region, perhaps that is an area that we need to pay more attention to, more certainly.
Wendell, I know we neglected earlier, but I think I should take this opportunity on the behalf of myself and Ayana, I'm sure, to offer our best wishes to the two Hope brothers for the unfortunate circumstance that has led to their withdrawal from this side. But these are two very popular cricketers among the group, I am sure, two senior cricketers and two key members of the side. And I'm sure that their situation would have had some effect on the rest of the outfit. Could you bring us up to date as to how the team and the other guys have been coping with that development?
Well, I mean, everybody was shocked, ultimately, devastated. But at the same time, recognizing that there is a job to do. Missing Shea Hope from any white ball cricket team is going to be significant. But we believe that as a franchise that we have been preparing with every eventuality. I always say to all of our staff and our players that we have a cadre of young cricketers who, as a result of international cricket, would not otherwise have an opportunity to represent Barbados. And therefore, one has to grab each opportunity that presents itself with both hands. And as a result of Shea and Kyle's unfortunate circumstances, Zachary McCaskey and Tevin Walcott will get an opportunity again to represent Barbados in white ball cricket. But at the same time, we can't not recognize the contribution that we know that Shea and Kyle had the potential to offer the side. And in as much as it is devastating, the players certainly are up for the challenge, and everybody recognize that here is our opportunity, and here's our opportunity to perform, even though and despite of the fact that we don't have Shea and Kyle.
Thanks to Ayana, Wayne, and Wendell. And here is wishing the Barbados side all the best in the tournament, and also for Cricket West Indies success in staging the 2021 Regional Super 50. That's our show. Thanks for watching. Join us again soon for another episode of Anything Cricket. Let's talk.